Ever feel like those "How I Made My Million" stories? You know those ones? They're speaking a different language, like, "Congrats on cornering the market on whatever those things are, but
Right.
how do I get my slice of the pie?"
Yeah, it's easy to feel that disconnect. It's like wealth is this exclusive club and you need a secret handshake to get in.
Right. But in this deep dive, we're ditching the get-rich-quick illusions and going straight to the source. Your notes on Naval Ravikant.
Good stuff.
This isn't about lottery ticket luck. It's about the principles he's used to build both wealth and happiness.
And what's refreshing about Naval is he's not just talking the talk. This is someone who built companies like AngelList, invested early in giants like Uber and Twitter. He's been in the trenches.
Exactly. And he's been so generous, just putting it all out there, sharing these principles he's honed over decades. You highlighted this quote. "I came up with the principles for myself when I was really young. I've been carrying them in my head for 30 years, and I've been living them." It's not just like a flash in the pan, right? It's a whole philosophy.
Absolutely. And one of the first things you highlighted, which I thought was really interesting, was Naval's definition of wealth. He says, seek wealth, not money or status.
I love how he just flips the typical definition, right?
Yeah.
It's not about the flashy car, but what's working for you behind the scenes.
Exactly. It's about owning assets that generate value even while you sleep. Naval would say it's not about a high salary, but owning a piece of the pie, literally in some cases, I'm sure, knowing his track record.
So more like being a partner than just an employee, having a stake in the outcome. Speaking of which, you highlighted this quote that, I don't know, felt like a teaser. "Give me a lever long enough." Is this about that leverage he talks about?
It is. Naval is all about finding your point of maximum leverage. He talks about it like a ladder, kind of, starting with, trading your time for money labor. Most of us
Right.
begin there.
Makes sense. It's the most straightforward exchange.
Right. But you can climb that ladder. Say you start as a construction worker, then become a contractor overseeing multiple projects. Eventually, you build a company like Zillow, disrupting the entire industry through technology. Each step, you're increasing your leverage.
So how do we discover our leverage? You can't just will yourself to be the next Zillow founder, right? Which brings us to something you highlighted that I think is key here. Specific knowledge.
Huge in Naval's framework. It's about identifying what you can do that's hard to replicate, your unique advantage, your secret sauce. Like he even uses gossip as an example.
Gossip is specific knowledge. That's a new one for me. Tell me more.
Think about it, someone incredibly well connected who understands how information flows that's valuable. It's not always about formal credentials, Naval says. When specific knowledge is taught, it's through apprenticeships, not schools.
Okay, that's a serious aha moment.
Yeah.
So it's about looking at my skills and interests through a different lens. What feels like play to me might be work for others.
Exactly. And that's a clue you're onto something. Now, you can't talk about leveraging your unique skills without talking about accountability. You underlined embrace accountability. And it does sound kind of daunting, but
Yeah, it makes me think of that, like fail fast mentality. Why does Naval emphasize it so much?
because in a world that's just like saturated with information, accountability, it builds trust. It shows you're not just talking, you're owning your work, wins and losses.
So it's about building a reputation, not just dodging blame.
Exactly. Look at Naval himself. He openly discussed his philosophy, even his early interest in crypto, when it wasn't as widely accepted. He put his name on it, and it built trust.
It's interesting. He talks about how modern society forgives honest failure, which is kind of reassuring in a way. It's about being authentic, not flawless. Speaking of building something meaningful, Naval doesn't just stock at wealth. He also talks about the long game, and not just with finances, right? You highlighted long-term games with long-term people.
Yes. And this is where he expands on compounding interest, but beyond just money. He believes trust, like money, compounds over time.
So it's like investing in people, not just projects.
He shares a great story about his partnership with angel investor Elad Gil. Elad's generosity, going above and beyond, deepened their trust, which led to even more opportunities for both of them.
So it's a win-win. It's about creating value together, not just cutting deals.
Exactly. And that ties into this intriguing phrase you underlined, escape competition through authenticity. What were your thoughts on that one?
I'll admit that one threw me for a loop. How can being myself help me escape competition? Isn't that what everyone's doing?
The key is most people are trying to copy, right? What they perceive as successful. But you can't win by imitating. True success, it comes from creating something uniquely you.
So leverage my specific knowledge to create something no one else can replicate. It's like, if you're trying to be the next Joe Rogan, you've already lost.
Precisely. Now, while building wealth is key to Naval's philosophy, he doesn't stop there. You highlighted a whole section on happiness, which I love. It's easy to get so caught up in chasing success that we forget about enjoying the journey.
It's like everyone's trying to book a ticket to Successville,
Yeah.
but no one's enjoying the ride, right?
Yeah.
And Naval's own journey is a great example of this. He talks about going from like a self-proclaimed 2 out of 10 on the happiness scale to finding genuine contentment.
Wow.
It shows happiness isn't this destination, but something you cultivate along the way.
And he doesn't sugarcoat it either. He sees happiness as a skill, not just a goal you check off. Like you highlighted, happiness as a choice.
I underline that, but honestly, it felt almost too simple. Like, if that's all it takes, why isn't everyone happy?
Right. It's easy to just kind of brush aside. But Naval argues it's about training your mind, just like you train your body. He says, the mind is just as malleable as the body. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, right?
Okay, so we can't just wish ourselves to happiness.
Yeah.
What does that training look like?
A big part is letting go. Letting go of things outside our control. You underlined a whole bunch. Desire, anger, other people's expectations.
These really resonated. They feel like, I don't know, just this dead weight we lug around.
Exactly. And Naval realized that true freedom, it comes from within, not from chasing external validation or outcomes, which ties into another powerful concept you highlighted, the power of the present moment. What resonated with you about that?
It's that feeling of always being caught, you know? Like between what was and what might be. Regret pulling us back, desire yanking us forward.
Yeah.
But staying present, that's where it gets tricky. Our minds are practically hardwired for distraction.
Totally. And that's why he advocates for practices like meditation. It's about training your attention, choosing where to focus, instead of being at the mercy of every passing thought.
So silencing that inner critic, constantly replaying the past or planning the future. Which leads us to another big one you highlighted, acceptance. But isn't accepting things the same as giving up?
That's a common misconception for sure. It's not about resigning yourself to a bad situation, but letting go of the struggle against reality. Naval often just says accept. It's a reminder that fighting what is, it only drains energy from finding solutions.
It's like once you accept the situation, then you can actually move forward.
Exactly. And this leads us to what might be the most empowering part of Naval's philosophy, this idea of the power to change ourselves.
Yes. I love this quote. The greatest superpower is the ability to change yourself. It's incredibly inspiring.
It's a call to action. Naval encourages us to, constantly self-reflect, identify habits that are holding us back, and replace them with ones that serve us. Small changes, consistently applied, lead to huge results.
It's like that saying, we are what we repeatedly do. So build the right habits, become the right person for the journey.
Now, I do want to bring up a concept you highlighted that might be a bit of a head-scratcher. Naval's idea about accelerating the heat death of the universe.
Okay, this is where I need to put on my philosophy hat. This is a big one.
It definitely stretches the mind a bit. He's connecting entropy, that tendency towards disorder, with the actions of living systems. We create these complex systems, technologies, civilizations, even a family. And he argues this actually speeds up the universe's journey towards a state of, uniform energy, where everything just becomes one.
So we're not just building companies and families. We're contributing to the ultimate cosmic smoothie. I'm trying to, wrap my head around this.
It's definitely a mind bender, but the way I see it, it's less about the specifics of heat death and more about perspective. Naval often talks about how everything is temporary, constantly changing. This concept just takes it to the ultimate scale.
So our actions, even our seemingly insignificant ones, they're all part of this grand cosmic dance.
Exactly. It's both humbling and awe-inspiring at the same time. And while we don't need to get lost in the, existential weeds of it all, it does offer a thought-provoking way to look at our choices.
It's like, what kind of ripple are we creating in the universe? Not just for ourselves, but for, everything.
Precisely. So, as you continue on your journey, building wealth and seeking happiness, keep this idea in mind. What does it mean to you to accelerate the heat death of the universe?
That is a question I'll be pondering for a while. And it's a perfect example of how Naval's insights, even the seemingly strange ones, can really spark a whole new level of self-reflection.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling inspired to dive deeper into Naval's wisdom, we've included links to the Almanack of Naval Ravikant in the show notes.
And remember, the journey to wealth and happiness, it's ongoing. There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more ways to leverage your own unique strengths.
So keep that curiosity alive, keep experimenting, and most importantly, enjoy the ride. After all, even entropy can't stop a good time.